We are now recording. Welcome, everyone. This is Neil Caden of the Apereo Foundation, and this is a teaching and learning meeting for Wednesday, April 15th, 2015. There's a link to the Etherpad over on the right. Please feel free to sign in. The meeting is being recorded, and we will start going down the agenda. Okay, great. I think we've got a good turnout. So let's see. Welcome and meeting lunch. So welcome, and hope everyone is doing well today. I see the Etherpad is filling up here. Project updates and announcements. The first announcement I'd like to make is about the lists. We have moved the Sakai user and pedagogy list from the old, what we call the collab server, over to the Apereo Google Groups server, and you should have received, and we merged them. So we merged the pedagogy and the Sakai user into one Apereo Google group called Sakai-user@apereo.org. And that's what we need to start using now. I'll turn off the other list shortly, so there won't be, in a day or two, so there won't be too much confusion about where to send things. And in the email, you should have received information on how to subscribe, how to unsubscribe, how to access by the web, because with the Apereo Google Groups, you can post on the web or through email. If you were in digest form, if you had chosen the digest option for either the Sakai user or pedagogy in the old collab list, then you'll have by default digest in the new lists. And you can change that, of course. So let's see. Any project representatives who want to talk? Otherwise, I'll just go through stuff. I'll just give a second to see if anyone wants to chime in, and otherwise I'll just start going through the things I think I know. Okay, I'll just start going through it, and please feel free to correct me or chime in. So with the STEP project, we had already announced that we've engaged with Flying Kite, and we had our first meeting with Steve Swinsberg, and that went really well. And I don't remember the exact timeline. I knew that Wilma, was it like he was going to start in May on the first item? Was that it, or May or June?
Yeah, he was finishing up some of the gradebook work, so I think it was slated to come right after that, but probably starting in May.
Thanks. That sounds right. And the gradebook work still has some. Is still chugging along. It's not yet in trunk. Let's see, LEAP is making progress. The development has started on LEAP. We're expecting a status report this week. And I believe we have a webinar coming up next week, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's going to be on the 28th at 1 p.m.
Thank you.
So I'll be posting some announcements about that webinar on the list later today.
Okay. Excellent. There's the accessibility. I had mentioned. I think that there's some work. There has been some plan being developed for accessibility work, and that is making progress. I expect we'll be setting up a meeting to kind of get that a little more formalized and kicked off sometime in the near future, but we don't have exact dates. But that's moving along. Let's see. There's the overall Sakai 11 schedule, I think, is firming up. I think it needs a little more discussion, but I'm happy to review it if people are interested. Just roughly, we are starting some testing this week. So like maybe this week and next week, we're doing testing. It's sort of like, I'm calling it early warning testing. So it's kind of preliminary. because, oh, that reminds me, Morpheus status. So because we know more work is coming on Morpheus in the next month or so, and there's also some infrastructure changes that are happening in Sakai to bring that up, bring certain pieces up to date, like Java, upgrading our Java to Java 8, things like that. So there's a number of things that are going on the works where we really can't do a full regression of the whole system because there's a number of changes we know are coming. But we would like to do like this first pass at seeing if anything major is broken in some of our more complex tools. So that's happening. There's a test plan. We're just waiting for a QA. We were waiting for a blocker bug to be fixed, which apparently is fixed. And then we'll need to get a QA server spinned up, and we've got a test plan. So you'll be getting more announcements about that really soon, the next day or two. And Morpheus has been picked up. The gentleman from NYU had been working on it. He's moved on, Mark Riley. He got things really started in Morpheus and did a tremendous job. And he's actually moved to a private company, so he's no longer in Sakai world, although he's still staying on our development list so he can answer questions. And that Morpheus work is being picked up by University of Murcia, Eduardo Daure. I don't have his full name. I have to go look it up, but Eduardo Rey, and from Marist Uday. So it's Marist and Murcia are picking up the Morpheus work, and they're doing a presentation on that on April 29th. And I'm trying to remember the time on that. I think that was either noon or 1 p.m. I think it was noon. So that's why that's where the work will be coming from. I'm trying to think, did I miss anything else? Anyone have any questions? Or and just a little bit more about the Sakai 11 schedule. So it looks like Sakai 11 would be something along the lines of fourth quarter release this year. If we end up slipping it all, we might end up first quarter of next year. Probably we will finish defining scope at the Open Imperio conference. There might be some work being done for Sakai 11 at the conference. A number of things already are in scope, like the things we mentioned here. We're probably going to get some step work in, some Samigo improvements. Gradebook will be in. We should have the Leap work in there. Probably not the accessibility, I'm guessing, at this point, because we haven't really kicked that off yet. And of course, Morpheus is in there. We've also got the dashboard, which we really haven't talked about a lot. So a lot of stuff going in Sakai 11. I'll take a breath and see if anyone has questions or corrections. I'm not looking at the chat, so. Oh, it is noon. Thank you for confirming that. Any word on when the Perio conference program schedule will be available? Yes, it should be. We've got a full schedule, and it's really firming up. And my understanding is it should be published this week. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so I'll move on to the next item, which is the bulk of the meeting, ePortfolios at University of Virginia and Notre Dame. And so I will pass the baton over to you guys. And that is approximately, we want to give you about 40 minutes to present and to take questions, and then, reserve the final 10 minutes or so we can discuss future meeting topics and kind of wrap things up. So go ahead and feel free to introduce yourself.
All right. This is Jitna Ferdiwek. I'm at the University of Virginia, instructional designer. Before I start, I wanted to say thanks to Jacques and Janice for the presentation last time. I missed it, but the video is up, and it's really great work that you guys are doing. So look forward to getting our hands on that and seeing how it fits what we're trying to do. My talk is going to be very quick. We're at the beginning stages with portfolios at UVA. We've been at it for a long time, but we never really had traction until now. And so what you're going to see here is sort of a whole bunch of text representing our thinking and sort of the mulling that we're going through as we kickstart the program at the university. So I'm trying to go pretty fast through this because I'm also very much interested in the next presentation, which is probably going to be fuller. So I'll try to do this as fast as I can. We focused on this quote from Randy Bass: ePortfolios can provide a means for clarifying and affirming localized institutional value. ePortfolios are very difficult to pin down, and this quote helped us kind of tie what we're trying to do to our environment. So what I'm going to talk about is sort of how have we come around to looking at ourselves and what ePortfolios could mean at the University of Virginia. What is our localized institutional value, and how could ePortfolios clarify and affirm that? And then the second thing is this methodology that we have discovered from Himsel and Baumgartner at Danube University in Austria. And they've produced a really interesting methodology. Well, they didn't produce the methodology, but they've used it on portfolios, which gives us a starting point. And it's an iterative process, so it kind of is reflected in the portfolio process itself. So it's a very interesting mix of methodology, process, and product. And so I'm going to talk about that. So what is our localized institutional context? Well, there's a strategic plan that UVA has put out, a draft version, hasn't been implemented yet, but there are a lot of references in it on advising, career advising, coaching, and actually creating an online portfolio. So we feel like there is interest in portfolios at very high levels. As I said, it's not implemented yet, but it gave us sort of a kick start into the direction of trying to implement portfolios here. The Cornerstone Plan also focuses on student leadership and the online portfolios as sort of being tools for reflecting student leadership. So that kind of defines a little bit of the thinking about how portfolios could be implemented. Other conditions at the university, well, we're a very decentralized institution. We're at a four-year institution, R1 research. We have 15,000 in our undergraduate population, but we don't have any assigned leadership for portfolio programs. So it's basically ad hoc faculty interest. There's some experimentation we've done with homegrown portfolio platforms. And now we have a group called the Technology Strategies in the College of Arts and Sciences. That's the group I belong to. And we have some modest funding, so we think, which we have used for portfolios, and we think that'll help us go forward. So basically, based on that, what are then our priorities? Well, the Cornerstone Plan gives us the student leadership and student advising as a focus. There is no institution-wide leadership. We have limited resources. We do have potential for distributed support. The UCS, which is our University Career Services, is very much interested in partnering with us. The library has there's some potential for us partnering with the library, and there are others that can help us. Of course, our LMS systems and so forth are also potential distributed support. So based on all that, our question is, what is the best approach and the best platform for our first-year students to start them out so that they can start collecting, selecting, and reflecting on their curricular and extracurricular work at the university? So again, based on these contexts, our focus has become really student services, meaning portfolios are really supported outside of the classroom context. There's a one-credit course that we have started this year. As I said, we have the partnerships with the career services and the library, and there is no real institutional context, no sense of sort of where the institution comes in. Some foreign language departments have been working, so at the departmental level, there might be some interest, but primarily it's a student service that we're thinking of providing. So that would be the approach. And then the platform would be something that is going to be very much focused on student ownership, student perspective, and student interface. What does the tool look like for the individual student, not for the course, the instructor, or the sort of institutional assessment. So brief history of what we've done so far. Last year, we gave out some of these LTI grants, the Learning Technology Incubator. Spanish and French picked up a portfolio project and used a grant to work with Pebble Plus as the platform. They've continued this year into last fall and this spring by expanding the Spanish and French courses into the 2000 and 3000 levels. But this time they switched and are using WordPress as the platform. And they've reapplied for a large group of language courses in Spanish, French, Italian, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, Portuguese going forward. So they've reapplied to see if they can get grants to continue doing that, working with WordPress. We also had 1-credit courses using Chalk and Wire and Digication, and information is coming out. In fact, right after this session, we have student presentations in one of these sections here on Digication. So we're waiting to see what the results are going to be from that. And then on the methodology side, the iterative process of evaluation, which is what we got from Himsel and Gartner. It's called the qualitative weight and sum method. And I'll just quickly take you through the process of how that works. It's a very simple system, actually. Basically define essential criteria. That means that the platform has to have them or else it's out. And then there's sort of things that the platform may have that are not important that you take out. And then in between those, you weigh the remaining criteria with these sort of scale of extremely important, very important, and so forth. Thinking about that, we started sort of our own sense of what the priorities are for us. Institutional integration in the first iteration was very important, that the tool be integrated into our LMS, that it can export the standard format, can ingest standard format. We also thought the user interface would be important, graphical, text, and equation editor, the construction layout, and so forth. So these are sort of the criteria that were important to us, including external integration with templates and specialized editors and so forth. But in the second iteration, and this is really what I wanted to get at, that we keep discussing this and going over it and filtering it down, we decided that it's really the two areas that are important to us because we're focusing on the student point of view. And so we just decided to look at the user interface, the student's user interface, with the parts that are listed there. A little bit of a rearrangement in the external integration. We brought in the ability to integrate with institutional systems, perhaps, but then that's probably, I'm not sure that's going to stay. Again, through the iterative process, we might change some of this structure. We applied the QWS system and sort of identified the essential elements in both of the categories. Ability to export portfolios is standard, that has to happen. We thought that was essential. And the configurability of the editor was important. But it's still a very rough picture, and it's not, it needs to be more granular than this. So if we look at the expanded list, for example, even the text editor, well, we can say intuitive, standard, fully configurable, etc. But what does it exactly mean in terms of formatting, internal links, and so forth? So as you can see, we still have, it's still coarse, and we need to break it up into more granular form. Luckily, though, the Himsel and Baumgartner's work has already identified a criteria, a checklist, which we can bounce our own ideas against. This is the one that they provide, but it's also in a form that you can use to actually pass out to evaluators and actually fill out with remarks and so forth. If we look at two of the, they already have done an evaluation of WordPress and Pebble Plus. This is in 2009. For example, here you can see that for WordPress, which is the form here, they've actually passed it in terms of the essential criteria that you can export ePortfolio data, but what they're talking about is exporting from one WordPress installation to another. So for us, for example, we would cross that out and say WordPress does not qualify because for us it's not from one WordPress installation to another. We want the student work to actually be exportable in PDF or zip format that can be read without the need for another installation. So this is just to show you how we would adjust the form to fit our needs. And so we have a blank form. This was originally in German, so we've had it translated and worked out. So the form is available, and it could be applied to anything. It doesn't have to be portfolios. That's what we're doing now. But we're thinking of even using this process of iterative weighted sum approach for different technologies that we would like to evaluate. So for now, we're looking at Pebble Plus, Digication, Chalk and Wire, and WordPress. And hopefully by the ABLE conference in July, we'll have sort of our decision as to which tool is best suited for us, or at least we'll have a picture of what the ideal tool is as far as we're concerned. So that's all I have. I mean, this is where we are, and we definitely would love to talk to anyone who's interested in this, and we'll share our results, of course, as soon as we have them. So with that, I'll stop and pass the baton to Paul so they can go on to talk about their work.
Okay.
Thank you, Yitna. We are unmuted. It says it's Laura Geckler here, but I'm sitting here beside Paul. His microphone didn't come up, but he will be clicking on the share your desktop and uploading his presentation files as soon as we close out of those. So intriguing part for me is how the Sakai Teaching and Learning Group in the first place came to be interested in this topic. And Paul asked me that question too. Here at the University of Notre Dame, we've just recently started getting together more often and talking about what it would look like if ePortfolio and Sakai were integrated. And the driver for doing that was our own first-year studies. I'm sure Paul's going to talk more about how first-year studies came to use ePortfolio. It's a first-year sort of pre-major academy. I'm sure many institutions have it. Are you seeing Paul's screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Paul, how did we get into this?
Okay, so we started with, again, my name is Paul. I do the product management for ePortfolios here at Notre Dame, and we use Digication as our vendor. And we started first with advising. So here at Notre Dame, all freshmen go through a program called First Year of Studies, where they have advisors that walk with them through their first year of getting their prereqs done and helping them declare their major. And so we started using ePortfolios as an assessment tool where the students could do reflections and advisors could see those reflections so that when they sat down with them, they had an understanding of what the student was dealing with and how to ask them more in-depth questions and not waste a lot of time with trying to chase down a bunch of things. So it really worked out well. And then we continue to expand from there. We're in different colleges where different professors use them to use them in their course to help do the different assignments and stuff. And so
if I can ask a leading question,
sure.
And I'll go ahead and do this throughout. I'm making the assumption that if I have the question, maybe they do too.
Sure.
So when we originally stood up ePortfolios at Notre Dame, the idea was to use them as an advising platform.
Correct.
But currently, I know from our recent conversations, we also have instructors giving students assignments which then become artifacts in their ePortfolios that students are responsible for curating the best of the best and developing their own. That means we're using it in two ways. How did that come about?
Correct. So the one thing that we learned with advising and then also with the different types of learning was that students, when they have their ePortfolio, they have the total freedom to upload and document all the work that they're doing. And what's nice is then when they leave the classroom, they take that with them. So they have access to that. And again, when we mention ePortfolio, it's more of what we call an ePortfolio thinking. I'll show you some stats here in a minute where multiple students will have multiple ePortfolios, and then they can determine what they want to use them for. They might use one for personal stuff, they might use one for professional, they might use one for a research study and stuff like that.
For a particular course.
Right,
or
exactly.
Project, right.
And then so we can walk through that real quick here. So here at Notre Dame, we use Digication, and we are around 6,000 plus students. What we started doing 3 years ago is when the freshmen come in, we have around 2,000 freshmen every year. We issue them all an ePortfolio, start with advising, and then we work with the different colleges around campus so that as the student progresses through Notre Dame, they have an ePortfolio with them the entire time. They can use the advising ePortfolio if they want, but also when we work with the different faculty, we'll create a course ePortfolio and a template to go with it, which I'll get into in a minute here. And so if you notice, we'll have 15,000 plus ePortfolios, so multiple students have multiple ePortfolios. Around 2 to 3 is the average that we see.
And at the same time, I don't think on the Sakai side, with a couple of exceptions, we've seen that instructors choose to use ePortfolio for their course materials instead of Sakai. It's not, there hasn't been an exodus from the learning management system over to portfolios. Each system has their strengths, and like I said, there have been some instructors who choose to teach with ePortfolio as being their sole platform, but usually they use both.
Correct. So the portfolio really works well for a student to document their work and to take it with them, but the LMS definitely provides other strengths as well. Right. So we have roughly 439 courses. There are multiple repeats. So if we happen to do what we call a course for advising, then we relaunch that course the next year. So, but this is just an overall amount of courses that we've done. Like Yitna mentioned earlier, they don't have any dedicated leadership. We do have 1.5 full-time positions, so I'm roughly 20 hours a week, and then we have a full-time position with an associate director, which I'll give the information at the end. And then we have about 4 student workers that help us roll out different things and work with graphics and connections and emails and stuff like that. So that really helps out quite a bit. So just to give a course overview, the faculty will use an ePortfolio as a course website, and it is a great way for the students to access one location to get any details of what's going on. If the faculty has to make any changes, they can make a change and only make it in one location, and the students know where to go. Well, I can't. And then, hang on one second here.
No, very distracting.
All right.
Okay, you go ahead. You unmute me.
You're on me. Oh, you're not.
Okay, sorry about that. We had a little bit of difficulty there. Okay, so moving on. So students download a template. So the way the course works is when the student goes into the course of ePortfolio and Education, they can download a predefined ePortfolio that's set up. We call it a template, and it gives them a wireframe to go along with the course. It doesn't have all the information in there for them because that's what they'll be populating, but it gives them some basic setups, and I'll give you some examples here in a minute. And we really found that if a student has too much of a blank slate, that they really don't know what to do, if they have a wireframe that they can work within, it really helps them progress through the course and helps tie it into the course ePortfolio.
So they have a structure for creating their own ePortfolio based on the instructions for the course that are set up in a course site in ePortfolio.
Correct. And we always walk the line of making sure that the students own the portfolio, so we don't want to give them too much information. We don't want to populate it for them. This is their ePortfolio, but to have a basis of what they can walk along is definitely the best way. So this is an example of a course website, and again, this is on a slide. If we later want to go to a live demo or something, we can. But this allows the students to go to the portfolio and get all the information from the professors. It also keeps them in the system, which is nice, so they can stay within the Digication system once they're logged in, so they don't feel like they're using multiple systems or get overwhelmed and feel like they have to, jump around too much.
And I probably need to say here that currently Sakai and our Digication ePortfolio system, these systems are separate and they require 2 separate logins.
Sure.
That is something that we're starting a project to change, but I see in the question, Yitna is asking that kind of thing. So since they're separate, if students were to be required by their instructor to submit assignments inside of Sakai, they would have to transfer that content. But the instructors who use both systems don't do it that way.
Correct. What they'll do is they'll keep all their work, and the students work on one end, but then when they do the grading, the test and quizzes, they go through the LMS. They go through Sakai.
Right.
Real quick, this is what a student, again, this is an expanded version so you guys can see it. This is what a student's ePortfolio template might look like, where it goes through and gives them some links to videos, gives them different PDFs that they can download, and where they could go. If you notice, it says select test and quizzes in Sakai, and the professor would link back to Sakai so they could do their tests and quizzes. Again, this is part of the resource site, not their template, but the resource site. So all the information's there, and if the professor needed to change it, they could go in and change one location.
I did misspeak because I forgot that ePortfolio is CASified, isn't it?
Yes.
So because we both use CAS, if you're logged into the ePortfolio system and you click on a link there for Sakai, you'll go directly to it.
Right. So we are both CAS authenticated. And this is an example of a template of a student. So it gives them some directions. And for this is a bio class. So every week they would do a lab notebook. So they would start with this and would say, make sure you add pages here, you give the date and the objective and the method, results, and the notes. It just gave them some basics to walk within, but they're the ones who uploaded their graphs and charts and thoughts and processes. And they would do this in their ePortfolio. And again, the benefit overall is that when they're done, they get to keep that for either research later or using it to show for an internship or for grad school or for whatever they feel is possible. They can show that out. And again, ePortfolio has different levels of permissions. Did you lose my PowerPoint?
Looks like it. We lost the PowerPoint.
Let's see here.
So have you got big blue button there? And it looks like we're...
Sorry about that.
Are you seeing it now? There we go.
Okay.
Okay. And they're going to want a copy of your PowerPoint.
Yeah, right. That's fine.
We'll have to get those as well.
Um,
Okay, we're seeing it.
okay. So again, that's what's sort of the base of a template. And then I'll make sure everybody gets this these slides. But here's the information for the 2 people that are leading up ePortfolio here at Notre Dame, and also a link to our website if you guys want to look for more resources and any information. So
This is perfect. Thank you very much, because I think people have been sitting there in stunned silence. I don't see very many.
Do we want to add anything about our first year of studies initiative? Mention that.
Well, as a stunned silence, haha. Pat Miller just mentioned one thing that we didn't tell you about is the future, and that's where we have a first year studies initiative to create a course. I don't know if it's similar to the one Yitna mentioned, but he said freshmen take a 1-credit course, and that's what we're designing here. And we're designing a 1-credit course. The course designers, the lead instructional designer looked at Sakai and ePortfolio, saw the strengths of both, and wants to use both systems in that course site. So that led us to go back to whether or not we could integrate the two systems and how that might work. So we're going to undertake it this summer as part of supporting first-year studies instructional design of this particular course. I am going to, well, there's no questions yet. Open the floor for questions. We are looking for feedback for those of you who might have thought before of integrating Sakai with a ePortfolio system as to how you might do it. What would your requirements be?
So Laura and Paul, this is Tricia at the University of Virginia. I'm curious, and you may have mentioned this and I just missed it. How do instructors, when they're setting up an ePortfolio in Digication for their course, how do they populate the space with the students in the system? Is there some feed that integrates into Digication, or is it just manual?
Right now the process is manual, so when we work with the faculty, they give us their course roster and we upload the students into their course.
Okay.
And then when the student logs into Digication, the course will appear on their dashboard and they can access it that way.
I see. So they have you to help them with that. That's good.
That is correct.
Another thing we discovered when we started working together, well, okay, so we get a feed for Sakai, and now we realize that we need to share that feed with ePortfolios so that when we integrate the two systems, whatever a course is and whoever has access to it in one system is identical in the other system. And in our LMS, in Sakai, we allow people to recombine their sections into sites. So if you teach 3 sections of the same course site, we will automatically create 3 sites for you, but you may only want one with your 3 sections in it. And we have a piece of middleware that we let you do that in. We also have cross lists. We also have multiple instructors who sometimes do team teaching. So although we provision the system for them, this is Sakai I'm speaking of, we pre-provision the system. We allow them to make changes on the fly. Then when we talk about ePortfolio and needing these two systems to be integrated, we realize we've got to do something similar on the Digication side.
Right.
So I'm sure there are a lot of technical details to be sorted out with Digication about that. And I'd like to just find out if you have any stats or information on the response to using Digication for advising and for courses from students and faculty alike. Do you have any anecdotal information you can share with us on that?
Before we chose Digication, didn't we go through a period where a small pilot used WordPress?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I remember that.
Yeah, I think the main feedback was the make sure that it was CAS authenticated, so it's easy to log in to the system, and then also that the students can own this when they leave the university, so they have access to the system as alumni, and then if they ever want to download everything and put it onto like WordPress or their own system anywhere else, they have access to do that. So that was some of the big factors for the students.
The students have been positive in terms of their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, it takes a while. Anything when you're asking students to be more proactive in managing their college career. So there's always been a little bit here and there of students maybe not wanting to participate, and they can do that. But overall, it's about 80 to 90% who tend to actively participate and stay involved with it throughout their 4-year time here at Notre Dame.
There's a question for Yitna in the chat.
Yes, I was just texting it, but I think I'll just say it is a problem to have. I mean, we're at the beginning, and so most of us are eager and willing to try out these tools, and we share information with each other. But
Yes.
Yes.
Can you repeat the question recording because the chat doesn't get included.
Okay, thanks. The question is, do you have any training issues with faculty having 4 different tools that they can use, or does each tool have specific needs it addresses? We don't have our faculty broadly using these tools. It's a very small group of us that are testing the tools, and so that's not a problem yet. But one of the main reasons we're going through this iterative process is to find the tool that we could recommend and stand behind, basically. So we'll probably end up with one of these 4 tools, or at least maybe 2. But each of them does address different needs. And WordPress, for example, is very attractive to the language group because it has the digital literacy sort of component to it, that students that are able to create WordPress sites have that added skill that they can take outside of the university and other places, and actually maybe even work with it. Whereas the other tools are techniques that are restricted to the tool itself. You know, you're not going to find Pebble Plus or Chalk and Wire out on the web as a skill. So there are differences in the tools, but at the same time, what we want is really the best tool for the student, and that's the holy grail. That's what we're trying to identify. What is the best interface, and which of these tools has it? My personal feeling is that I don't think any of them are going to be perfect, and that's understandable. And so we, as a community, need to really push for what it is that is the best set of tools bundled together in one portfolio platform for students.
The other question here is, what is the per user cost for these systems? For Digication, I know it definitely depends on how many accounts you have, but for a premium account, I think it's between $4 and $6 account per year. And that includes unlimited space for them to upload. And then also they're allowed to access it as alumni as long as we have an account with them. And then if we're going to end that relationship in the future, they could carry on the hosting costs themselves for like $6 a year, or they can download the entire thing and move it to another system if they want.
And the other tools are similar to that. Chalk and Wire and Pebble Plus have individual accounts that students can pursue on their own past the university. And they vary as to whether they charge the institution for the back end and then give the tool for free to individual students while the institution is using it, or the students pay for it and the institution gets the back end for free. There are lots of different ways that they're handling the funding of these tools.
And then real quick to piggyback on Yitna's question about the specific needs, the one reason we went with Digication as well is that the faculty have access on a back-end system to communicate with their class, to handle assignment submissions, to keep track of all that. And then also there's an assessment back-end that we use as well to try to help professors assess their course and try to have rubrics and stuff like that to determine what their next steps are. So that's the reason why we picked Digication.
In my sense, these tools are also kind of headed towards becoming LMSs. I know that they're developing more and more of the LMS tools in the ePortfolio package.
There is a gradebook Lite currently that we're looking at to see could you start with the ePortfolio gradebook, and then at some point, if you have a more complicated one, you'd want the one in the LMS, or is a gradebook going to become an LTI tool in the future that could you could choose best of breed, and it's a very interesting space.
We have about just a few minutes left on this topic.
Do you have many ePortfolio users who are using the Digication gradebook?
No, not yet, because the use two different systems. They just use it to do their own grades and upload it into the Sakai or Banner.
This is Trisha again. I really like this evaluation instrument that you have translated from the German. And is it something that that you could make available to us for anybody who wants to use it and change it for their own purposes?
Yes, that's one of the things I'd like to see happen, is for us to sort of show the particular iterations that we went through and then provide the original template so others that want to use it can also do the same. So it's very local. You have to kind of work it out and figure out what your priorities are. But yes, that will be available.
Awesome. Thank you.
Are there any more questions or comments on this topic for now? And do we know where these materials will be made available? Is it going to be sent on the list, or would you like me to find some place to publish them if you want to send it to me, or what's the best way to get some?
I wonder if we could make them available off of the Teaching and Learning Confluence site.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I'm happy to volunteer to if Yetna will make the evaluation instrument available to me, I'm happy to put it up there.
Yes, I will, Tricia.
Okay, thanks. And same for Laura. You can probably edit that page yourself and add it, or I'm happy to do that for the PowerPoint that Paul has.
Okay, great. So is there any desire to have further conversation on this at another time, or do you think this is like sufficient for now? And of course, there's always Open Apereo, and there will be a number of networking opportunities people can use if they want to further explore. Okay, well, give that some thought. I'm gonna go ahead and take back the presentation and make sure I get that up there. Okay, and we'll spend the last few minutes with our planning. I want to make a note that I had neglected to mention that there is an accessibility presentation today, and I posted that in the Etherpad notes. It's at 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. And there's a registration link there, so you can find out more about the status of accessibility in Sakai today if you're available. I would presume they're recording it, but I'm not sure. And let's say maybe it'd be worth screen sharing. Always a while. Let's try that. And here we go. Okay, so we are down here with discussing the schedule and topic themes. So for next week, we have how to use lessons to structure online hybrid courses and templates for faculty from Christy.
Actually,
yeah.
you skipped a week.
Oh, I skipped a whole week. The next week is experiences using lessons at Johnson University, Dave Evelyn. And then the week after that, we have how to use lessons to structure online courses. Then we have an opening on May 6th, which we can discuss in just a second here. We've got peer review and lessons on May 13th, lesson survey results on May 20th. We had talked about having a Karuta discussion, a follow-up, where we brainstorm some use cases for that portfolio system. And so that is confirmed. So for May 6th, I have been trying to get Dr. Chuck to commit to a date, because he did indicate that he was enthusiastic about presenting to the group. We had talked about a couple of different ideas around LTI and also the Sakai Wiki, because there's a Sakai Wiki group that's been looking at a potential replacement for the existing wiki. And I haven't been able to get a confirmation yet. We could do a presentation on the Sakai Wiki on May 6th. where that is, but I really think it would be better if Dr. Chuck was available to participate, since he has some ideas on that. Another option that I'd be willing to volunteer for May 6th is kind of going back to JIRA. So I try and keep track of issues and that might be of interest to the teaching and learning group to get feedback on, and I wonder if it might be about that time. It's been a while since we looked at issues in JIRA and went into some nitty-gritty stuff about the current state of Sakai. So that's another idea, and certainly open to other thoughts as well.
Neil, I think your suggestion is really good to revisit what's in the JIRA, just so we can keep awareness of what kinds of things are showing up there that we might need to think about.
Okay. There is a self-service option available, which is documented on the teaching and learning site. And part of what I could do is also review how to do that. It's pretty simple. You just need access to JIRA, and it's available to anyone who has an account. And I'll also see if I could dig up. We have an existing list of issues, and I don't know if anyone wants to help me triage those. Sorry about that. To see if there's particular ones we'd like to highlight for this discussion. There's one or two I can think of off the top of my head, but that might be a good way. It might be helpful to prioritize some of the issues that have been tagged for teaching and learning. And then we have the conference on May 31st through June 4th, and I'm curious how many people have planning on attending on this call. How many of you are going to the Perio conference?
I'm going. Trisha's going.
Cool. Nice. I see Matt's going, and Stephen's going, and Laura, and a lot of people are going. That's good, because we have a lot of I thought that might have been an issue. Wasn't that on the agenda? Did I miss that? Oh, there it is. So yes. So the final item right here is it's a good segue. Is that there's a lot of birds of a feather and presentations that are connected with teaching and learning. There's conditional release and lessons, Jim Mezzanotte from AsahiNet. There's a teaching and learning BOF. There's a lessons BOF. There's a Samigo BOF. There's we were going to take one of the teaching and learning sessions and explore whether it should be a Perio level. So we might need to get the word out on that. So it's not just Sakai. And look, there's a Karuta all-day workshop and presentation. So yeah, this would be a really good place to. I wonder if there's I wonder if there's a better place than an Etherpad to keep track of all the teaching and learning. Maybe we should have a space in Confluence to keep track of all the teaching and learning related presentations and BOFs that are going on.
I think that's a good idea, and definitely when we're on the call, if anybody knows about something or is planning to present, add it to the list here, and we can get it updated on Confluence.
Yeah, and again, don't forget there's also lots of networking opportunities. One of the things that will be coming in the next few weeks is we're going to gather topics for what we call the Networking Cafe. It's really, the Networking Cafe is a theme of presenting opportunities for people to, at the conference, find other people with similar interests. So we'll be gathering topics from the community. The top vote getters will have some significant time during lunchtime on Monday to work on, and then there's networking lounge space where additional topics can be discussed, and experts can be available for discussions, and there'll be ad hoc meeting space as well. So if anyone wants to continue discussions, there'll be space that you can reserve. I think that covers it. I love that people are adding into the opportunities at the Open Apereo right on the Etherpad there, and we'll move those over to somewhere on Confluence. Are there any other announcements or topics or questions before we wrap up here? Okay, well, I think that, let's see if there's any comments here. All right, well, I think then that's it for today. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and thank you all for attending, and we'll get this recording up on our Sakai YouTube channel. Thanks all.